Hi there, welcome to this speed paint. It's a bit of illustration practice I did, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my thought process and about my plans for this channel. This is my first ever YouTube post. If you found your way here, I hope you enjoy it. So, my plans for this channel. I've struggled with depression for a really long time, and it's really held me back in life. My hope is that posting my progress in my art here will keep me motivated and keep me pushing myself to get better. And I also want to have fun, so along with the speed paints, I plan to post videos of let's plays of all the games in my Steam library, some old games I've played before, and some new ones I haven't experienced, some old ones I haven't experienced. So if you want to talk some video games with me, stick around for more videos. Okay, back to the art. I knew for this practice I'd set out to do that I wanted to use some fabulous female artist as inspiration. So I hit up Google, I started searching around, and I decided to start searching up Aurora because I'd only heard of her fairly recently, but I listened to Conflictions of the Mind like almost daily on repeat, and so I was curious to see a bit more about what was out there of her, and it did not disappoint. There's so many amazing photos of her, and this one with the solar crown, I immediately wanted to draw that because it looked like a lot of fun, and I thought it might be a simple exercise to do, but then I realized simple is not quite the word for something where the hands are all up on the face, but it was a fun challenge, and I go back in, like, I attack the hands, and I simplify them towards the end in a way that I'm quite happy with. I was completely abandoning the idea of like this being a realistic approach and looking at some of the art I've done before of monster girls where they are quite, I feel bad saying simplified because like it's more like it's very stylistic, and it makes me very happy, and I'm going and looking at them, and then when I fill in the eyes here, I'm like, that's it, that's getting close to this like pop art vibe that I want to go for. These are risks I kept going back over and doing over and over again because they feel like they're an appropriate size when your face is pressed right up against the screen, and then you sit back and you realize, oh, this is too thin, this is too fat, who knows. I gave up on that rather quickly and moved on to the hair to do something fun. That boxy fringe was just so satisfying. You'll see my process here goes very much sketch, line art, sketch, line art, sketch, line art, over and over and over again until I find like the exact kind of line that I'm looking for. I play with the thickness here a little bit, and I also change the ink color to this nice midnight blue because the solar crown had me thinking about space vibes, and I've been thinking about experimenting with changing line color. The Monster Girl pictures that I mentioned before, those I did all with like colored line art rather than black. So this was an attempt to kind of recapture that. I was quite happy with how it was going. And if anyone's curious, the pens that I'm using, they're part of a texture free sample pack that I got from True Grit. They were incredibly generous with all the freebies you got in the supply pack. I use them all the time, and they're amazing. See here, I'm doing the simplified hands, not worrying about fingernails, keeping the joints and everything very simple, and not worrying about it looking too much exactly one for one like the photo above. It still takes me many attempts to get what I'm happy with, but you just gotta keep on pushing, because it's definitely worth it in the end. Whenever it is, I feel like I need a break from one part, I go and move right onto another, so that's why I've moved on to the crown here. Try and get the layout of where I want all the suns to sit. Immediately get distracted by that. And look at the clothes she's wearing and see how I want to incorporate that. I end up getting rid of a lot of the clothing details at the end. It's a rather flat image, but it was just so satisfying. Here I am playing with, like, you know, the line thickness again. You know, we're trying to keep the image flat, but add like a little bit of detail by playing with like adding a line here, upping the thickness there, seeing how it turns out. Because I'm learning, all of this is like a very experimental process. At this point here, I add in just a temporary background because, like how I want poppy style, I want poppy colors, and I need something that this yellow would stand out great against. See, I add these little circles here to kind of draw around there to give them kind of a little bit more of like a natural movement to these flames rather than just freehanding it. And I know they're a metallic substance, but again, simplification is the key here. So very simple, just like a two-tone, you know, a hint of this being a reflective surface. At this point, I'm trying to just follow through on that idea of this being simplified, poppy, and just like a little bit difference with this headpiece feeling a little bit sketchier. When I do these circles, I try a few different ways of doing the suns, but I settle on bringing the yellow back in and doing these kind of sketchy lines. It reminds me of some 60s style, you know, some like old space cartoons, things like that. It's like, yeah. And then just that little simplified hint of the clothing there really helped kind of cap it off. And I go in with some shading here because earlier that day I'd been doing some practices of light and line thickness and shading. And I just kept on wanting to do that throughout the day, so it ended up making its way into here, but I love it. Again, we're trying to keep it like simple, kind of blocky. And I think it works great. And then the very favorite part, just coming in, coloring with a big fat brush. And then my go-to for cleaning up my coloring is just to take the loop select tool and delete as I go. So this time I erased around the edges of my coloring first. The final little detail that I add to this is a little reflection in the eyes, a little cat eye gleam that ties in that color from the top, and I think just really finishes this piece off perfectly. I'm so happy with how this turned out. It looks amazing, and I just hope I can keep carrying this style through to my next pieces. This has been my first ever speed paint. The process has been nerve-wracking, not the speed paint, but of coming in afterwards to try and give my thoughts on it, trying to record my own voice. That I'm looking forward to making more videos, and I hope that you feel inspired to do some art yourself and hopefully come back and see some more content from me. Until then, bye bye.